Hey everyone, and welcome to the Boost Your Biology podcast. My name is Lucas, and I'm the founder of Ergogenic Health. Together in this podcast series, we will go underground to explore cutting-edge health and human performance insights that you simply cannot search on Google to help you upgrade your existence. So, without any further ado, let's jump into today's episode. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Boost Your Biology podcast. Today, joining me in on the studio, we have Ryan Russo. Some of you may already know who he is. He's another YouTuber who creates a lot of content around biohacking, bodybuilding, and things like that. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
I hope everyone is doing well.
That's his.
And a little ASMR sip for you guys. I should be doing my sponsor 1907, but I have some liquid death from the gas station.
I'll join you with some San Pellegrino.
There you go. Pellegrino in the cup. Way higher class than me.
Oh, geez, man. Well, it's been quite some time since I spoke about this particular topic. And before we get into today's discussion, which is going to be pretty much centered around what you've been going through. How many months has it been now? 4 or 5?
About 6.
6 months.
About 6. Coming up on 6.
So before we get into today's discussion, maybe do you want to explain to my audience, like, what happened to you and in regards to your health? What do you believe, triggered this entire cascade of a downward health spiral? Because there's a lot of similarities between the symptoms that you've been experiencing with what I experienced with ashwagandha. So take it away.
Yeah, I'm just going to be blunt about this. First off, let's preface my type of content. So I'm more like, Lucas is more like longevity, naturopath stuff. I'm more like extreme performance enhancing, the kind of kooky, crazy drug cocktails that are in bodybuilding, as well as performance just bleeding into, I do actually consult Lucas sometimes on his crazy naturopath stacks and stuff, but I'm an extremist, flat out. So I was testing a diet drug, tesofensine. I took one single pill. I felt a little bit off during it as far as my mood fluctuation. The pill completely half-lifed out. One single pill. One single pill. I want to say that like 10 times. I felt normal. I then received a Gorilla Mind shroom product, which the main advertising point was Lion's Mane. Lion's Mane is exploding on the market as far as the next, limitless pill. This thing can do everything. It makes you focus super hard. You can remember a specific date and all this stuff around the ultimate mushroom nootropic. I've tried psychedelic mushrooms in the past, and I've used the original Gorilla Shroom 1.0 product for years with zero side effects. This product had the highest, in my opinion, scientifically backed dose of Lion's Mane possible in it. And I forget the dosage off the top of my head, but it was over 3 grams. I think it was 3,200. Yep. And I took 4 caps in the morning, felt completely normal. Completely normal, 100% myself. And I was doing a video marketing video to, showcase this product. I sold a lot of the original Shroom 1.0. I was actually a big fan of the Shroom 1.0. I go up to the max dosage recommended on the label. I don't even know how to describe it. The instant I took the max dosage, I was grabbing my head. I went into a panic attack. That dissipated. So this week and a half, I felt super smart, but I could not sleep at all. And then I went about, I'd say, 6-7 days without any sleep at all. I'm calling my parents I don't know if I want to go to the hospital over this or what. No one really knows what Lion's Mane does. There's not really much data to look at. I have no idea what it's doing or if there's any spillover cross interaction. But overall, I was really leaning towards the shroom product doing it. Finally, it seems like I could sleep again, and the crash happens. So the crash was about 1-2 days, and during this crash, so Lucas, I'm about my penis enlargement content, as are you, and you know I antagonized the haters. The haters thought I didn't have giant dick, and then over the time I grew it from 6.5 to 8.2. It completely got electrocuted, as if I was chemically castrated. I literally was in the bed convulsing, shaking, tremoring, schizophrenic thoughts, panic attacks. I checked my blood pressure, and it was anywhere between 150 to 180 or over 100 plus, and just me chilling, trying to chill. Parasympathetic nervous system completely destroyed. I ended up pissing orange. I lost about 15 pounds of muscle like that. I actually thought my kidneys were failing. I had no idea. I've never pissed a color like that. And it got to a point where if I would sit down, it didn't feel like I had the contractory ability to really get up without being 100 years old and propping myself up. I could no longer walk right. My speech started slurring. I couldn't form sentences. I had no, I'll link it to AR signaling, but I had no instant thought. If me and Lucas were taking a test against each other, it's who can think faster. Couldn't think at all. And it really never got better. It actually got worse. My digestive system went to shit. If I would eat something, I had no hunger response. If I would eat something, it would come out like a yellow turd that didn't match the size. When I would eat stuff, I would get pins and needles all over my body. And yeah, this basically went on like that until I started inducing extreme polypharmacy. I really did try to kind of naturally heal out. As far as, the rabbit holes that exist around this, it's pretty insane. I went down, I don't know how many rabbit holes, and it's just been, now that I'm better, Lucas, it's one of those things where it's all registered as trauma, and it feels as if it didn't happen to me. It feels like my soul aged 5 years and 6 months, and that didn't happen. But every day I wanted to fucking kill myself. It was just I'm bipolar, so I know when emotions fluctuate very easily, and I know when I'm in a depression, and that's just oh, you think a depression's bad. How about no emotions? How about when you touch your dick, it gives you neuropathic pain all over, pins and needles. You can't even if you would go take a bath, you'd feel no relaxation. My adrenals weren't working. So I have a Ducati V4S, so 230 horsepower bike. Went down the highway 160, zero adrenaline response. Zero. I looked like a psychopath on it. I was just man. So it was just, I don't know how to describe it. I wouldn't want anyone to go through it. Even my worst enemies, even all the people who are painting this whichever way. I don't want anyone to experience that. It was, I'm forever changed, even though, I'm back to normal. I can feel dopamine now. I can feel serotonin now. If you guys are on the other side of the camera, there is hope if you're dealing with this situation. But it's just, I don't know. How do you describe it, Lucas?
Yeah, look, I think, I appreciate you sharing that with everyone here. And I think it's a topic that oftentimes gets neglected, which is the dangers of some of these natural compounds. And I've spoken about ashwagandha numerous times. I spoke about it probably 3 years ago. And the side effects that I experienced from ashwagandha were nowhere near as severe as what you experienced. They definitely weren't as intense, and it didn't affect all the other areas of my life, but it did affect one sphere of my health, and that was the pleasure response. And it significantly dampened my ability to experience pleasure from a variety of things in life that should bring me joy and pleasure. The best way I could describe it at the time was a part of my cognition or emotional processing was completely robbed. And I felt I'd become a new person in terms of like my demeanor and my personality. I also noticed that I had
Explain how your demeanor changed. Like,
yeah.
how do you think, like, what was the old Lucas versus this Lucas now?
Oh, geez. Well, the old Lucas used to ironically experience a lot more anticipatory anxiety and also a little bit more nervousness around things that could be like exciting. Whereas now,
Mm-hmm.
there's almost like it's like not having the startle response. You don't get that little bit of thrill or
Mm-hmm.
anticipation. There's more of I'd say like a dampened effect. And in a way, I've spoken about this with my family. I've seen therapists myself to talk about how this has impacted my quality of life and whether or not there's a part of me that likes, being in that state where I'm unable to experience much of the lows, but also not much of the highs. So I'm sort of like in that middle zone, that numbed out SSRI zombified state. And I look back at people around me who used to say like, Lucas, how do you work so hard and how do you work so much? Like you're not really phased, you don't really want to go out. And I look back at myself back then and I used to be like, there's a reason why I never wanted to go out and do things. I was more of a hermit and wanted to stay in my garage and work. It was because I truly felt like I just could not get any like joy or pleasure from outside activities. So all I thought my comfort
Mm-hmm.
zone back then was to just keep blasting out work, just smashing work. I became addicted to working, and it really severely affected my ability to date women. Like it significantly impacted that at the time. I even had to tell. I told one of the girls that I was dating, there's like, I just physically could not connect with her, no matter how like, even though on the surface, like she was, she was beautiful, she was really caring and things like that, but she just, it was not her, it was me. Like I just simply could not get that oxytocin feeling, that nice, pleasurable, warm
Mm-hmm.
response, and that was just, yeah, just really, oh man, it drove me crazy. Like yeah, I mean,
You were the first one who reached out to me and gave it to me how it was. You know, everyone was painting fairy tales around the bullshit, and you gave it to me how it was. So, always respecting my hat off to you, Lucas, about this situation.
well, well, I appreciate that. But when you told me that you'd used that one single dose of the tesofensine, which I'd already seen a number of other guys use that drug for fat loss purposes, and I remember reading into like the mechanism of action. It's like an SDNRI, like a serotonin.
Yeah, it impacts all of them. It
All of them.
impacts all of them. It's insane.
It's just like a shotgun approach. And when you told me that you used that, I was like, oh shit. I think Ryan's got like PSSD. Like for those listening in, by the way, PSSD is post SSRI sexual dysfunction, and this can occur following a single dose of an SSRI, so an antidepressant essentially. And tesofensine, part of its mechanism of action is that it actually can exert a serotonin reuptake inhibiting effect. So, long story short, when you reached out to me, man, like I was really nervous for you. I was honestly like late at night thinking, fuck, I hope Ryan's going to recover. Like I was really worried about how you were going to feel. And then you were talking about going to the gym and not being able to get pumps in the gym and all these sort of things. I'm like, he's pretty much explaining exactly how I've been operating and functioning over the last 4 years. And
Mm-hmm.
like, you've asked me numerous times what I've tried and what I've experimented with, and I've tried a bunch of different things. And there's only a few things now that can really get me into what's called a window. And a window is a state where you're fully recovered, like you feel like you're fully recovered and all your symptoms are gone. And that's like pretty, the longest streak of feeling good that I've had is about 18 days. But then unfortunately something crashes me. Like it's frustrating because I've got theories as to like what keeps crashing me, but like it's just so frustrating, man.
Like when you would train, like like now that I'm in quotation marks better, right? I'm not. There's no cure in this video if you guys are watching this, but like I had no dopaminergic drive when I went to the gym. It's like going through the motions. Like Russo, you've been going to the gym every fucking day your entire life. Like obviously, I'm gonna continue on discipline. I just trained legs for 2 hours, and like at the end of it, I still wanted more. And that was the old me. Like I never had enough. Like I was bipolar driven. That energy needed released. None of that. None of that for 5 months at all. Like I used to like be piped up, fuming to get out of the car to go into the gym. And when I would drive to the gym, I'd sit in the car. I don't want to go in the gym. Like this was nothing like me. All the dopaminergic drive was gone. And like how you say you can't get an oxy release with any girls you date. You know, I've been dating the same girl for 10 years. So when we fucked, there's an extreme oxy release. That was gone. I've only recovered that like in the past like probably 4 or 5 weeks. And it's not nearly where it was. But it's like, oh, it's working again. And I maybe had like 2 instances where you said like, oh, I felt a window. Like there was maybe 2 times I fucked her during that horrid couple months where I felt any sort of oxy release. And it's just like, when I think about what I did to heal myself, a normal person, they're not gonna, I wouldn't want a normal person to embark down the psychotic path I went down to get to where I'm at.
Dude, the worst part about it for me was the amount of energy that I would waste thinking about it and thinking about how I used to be. I would spend so much of my day. It hit like a Friday afternoon, which is usually when I try not to work and I try and get into like, you know, enjoyment and just fun, chill out mode. But I used to I used to spend so much energy and time just reminiscing on how the old Lucas used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, it's almost like I was grieving. It felt like I was grieving that old version of myself. And now I was trying to come to terms with, all right, well, this is your new state of being. Like, what are you going to do about it? You're just going to keep like complaining about it? Or are you going to let it ruin your life? Or are you going to actually try and operate and find meaning in other activities, in other things? And that's when I started to realize that, interestingly, what I noticed was that when I'm not in a window, I become more altruistic, which means that I was more interested in serving other people rather than serving myself. And so I became less occupied and engaged in like ego-based things, which were like self-satisfying. Because I simply couldn't satisfy myself, man.
Do you feel like the dopamine, like for me, I can relate to that. Like I didn't even want to look at my long-term girlfriend because it would drive me into a downward spiral when I would look at her and nothing would happen. And she's trying to maintain a conversation, and like the electricity's not there.
Oh, that's well, I've only recently my current girlfriend now, we've been together for 5 months, and there have been numerous occasions where I find it extremely difficult to connect with her, like that desire and wanting to connect with her, like on a romantic level. A lot of the time, and she knows this, like she knows that I'm going through this. It's a struggle because it feels like I'm doing things from purely the logic side of my brain. Like it's just pure. I know I should be hugging and kissing her right now and making her feel like, and snuggling with her, but I'm not. I'm really not. It's like the switch is off. So no matter, it's not her. It's literally me. The switch is off, and so that's probably the hardest part. Because then, like, once it hits like Monday, and I'm back on the grind, back into my work, my brother would ring me and ask me like, how was your weekend? And I'd say, yeah, it was all right. And he's like, what do you mean it was all right? I'm like, well, I'm still like I'm still suffering, and like he would just
It's rough and it's a battle no one understands, and then you start talking about it, and unless you've experienced it, I don't know how to portray it. Because I know exactly how your linear time is fucked up, how you perceive time, and the way you say, oh, I would wake up every day and I'd remember the old Ryan, and it would feel like just how you felt. Like, it always felt like I was ever so slightly unconscious during like the whole day, unless I'm focused on just doing, work. Everything else, I'm just ever so slightly unconscious. And when you do that day after day after day, it's not like me or Lucas are like, oh, we're messed up. It's just like something that is right there that you feel like you're almost there. Like, when I would wrestle and I would get concussed, there would be like weeks where like I was concussed and I felt almost back. I just felt months of being almost back with all the other symptoms on top. And there's no way to ignore that little itchy feeling. I couldn't find a way to cope with it.
And I remember when you sent me that message saying you just, you went like 230 kilometers an hour on your motorbike, but you couldn't feel anything. I was like,
I looked like Patrick Bateman's Psychopath.
jeez.
Like, I just blitzed my bike the other day and I was cracking up from all the adrenaline. Like, I was maniacally laughing after I did a pull. And a couple months ago, I'm like, how am I not getting any adrenaline dump? It was actually scary, honestly, because I felt like my reactions were obviously fucked to be operating a bike like that. But like that's not psychosomatic. Like, it's just like, if I'm in danger and there's no adrenal response and I'm a male, something's messed up. Something's messed up. Something's not working right.
Let's go back into, so let's say, that first week that you experienced the severe, like, let's just say serotonin syndrome symptoms, you had all the convulsions and all that.
I had my eyes did not roll back into the back of my head, but I was pretty close.
Jeez.
And it felt like I was getting electrocuted. Like, my whole CNS was just literally on fire. My skin was burning. My whole skin went numb. And to relate it towards like how you said like your crash wasn't as severe. Like, I talked to a lot of finasteride guys too, and their crash wasn't as severe. But all these lines main people, and the tesofensine could have cascaded me. I'm not counting that out. But when I go into the lines main recovery, we had a suicide that mimicked my exact downfall. It was a wife, a widow wrote it. The husband took lines main, see it online, see it on Facebook, bought it. Couldn't sleep for a month, tried benzos. I remember I tried benzos and they didn't work. And I'm like, I can't go to sleep without like, my GABA system just wouldn't work at all. I was like, man, I can't even use a benzo to sleep. And yeah, he ended up taking his life with 2 kids. And it was like pretty much like a stupid dramatic crash, like how my crash was. And like, when I go online and say how crazy my crash was, no one believes me. And it's just like, it's like a naturopath like you. I feel like you guys need bigger microphones, because it's like these natural supplements, the people who sell the natural supplements are like, I'm selling a natural supplement. This isn't a drug. And these are acting as bad, if not worse, to certain individuals, while other people don't want these to get banned. The Lion's Mane Recovery is beefing with the regular Lion's Mane Reddit, saying we're all crazy for having a bad reaction. It's just like the way the internet is.
Dude, when I was at naturopathic school, pretty much there used to be like a range of different lecturers that would talk about different herbal extracts, and they'd talk about like reishi mushroom, they'd talk about saw palmetto, they'd talk about like romania, all of these herbs. Dude, every single time they'd talk about it on the whiteboard, the first thing that I would do in class, because I knew eventually in 3 to 5 years from that point that I was going to be occupying the space of men's hormonal health, and I'm going to be the guy that needs to broadcast the dangers of some of these herbs. And because at the time I was hyper obsessed with like researching reishi mushroom androgens, lion's mane, DHT. I would just research the shit out of all these different herbs, and I started to make a list of all the potential things that men will need to avoid in the future, because I could just foresee that shit like this was going to go down. And it happened to me back then as well, even before the ashwagandha, the whole ashwagandha thing happened to me. I remember I used lion's mane so long ago, man. I was probably like, I think I was 19. So at 19 years of age, I started using lion's mane from a company called Powder City. Do you remember them?
I don't remember them now.
They're like the OG nootropic. Powdercity.com was like the US.
I was an androgen guy back there. Like, I just avoided nootropics because I was afraid to fuck with my brain, and here I am years later, fucked my entire brain up. So back then I was a little smarter.
Oh my god. Oh, so back then, yeah, when I was using, when I used lion's mane, I noticed, and this was being 19 years of age, I noticed that I'd wake up without morning wood, when usually I would wake up with morning wood and be like hypersexual straight off the bat, like straight away as soon as I wake up. Like,
yeah.
It's like typical 19-year-old, probably had pretty high testosterone back then as well. But I'd be like horny, and that's like a normal, and then it'd be an urge to consider not like, you know, not masturbating.
Right. You push your vigor off and use it to work instead of beat your dick to a screen.
Yeah.
You'd have that, conception every morning.
Yeah, and so I would actually then, I could actually then harness that level of energy, which everyone talks about.
Right.
And that,
right.
when you're harnessing that, I just really want to do it, but you don't. Like, that level of energy is just like, you'll go run through a wall, man. Like, you just feel, you go to the gym in that state, and like, you're fucking pumped. Like, you can't wait to, I used to get excited. I used to feel like I would deliberately not, because I could tap in, I knew that early on, that like, if I held off from masturbation, didn't ejaculate, then I'm going to be going to the gym with this extra sexual energy that's going to make me lift heavier and push harder and
Have you ever watched porn, not come, and then went to the gym? Yeah. I've done that. Like, dark manipulation. Like, use the fucking, they're trying to castrate everyone, so just, like, use it against them. Just go watch the most insane shit and then go to the gym without coming. Like, I would do that all the time.
Yeah. Actually, I think my girlfriend now, she...
Don't do that. I don't want to create no porn addicts. Stop.
Yeah.
Porn's bad. Please don't do that.
My girlfriend right now, she understands that principle. So if you know what I mean, so we've harnessed that a level of energy. But yeah, back then, like going back to the lion's mane, like when I first tried it, I was like, I remember, experiencing like, I was like, this is definitely lowering my libido. And I started like checking on Reddit, and there were only like a few threads back then on the Reddit/r/nootropics. Like there were hardly any threads on lion's mane affecting libido. And then I remember I made a post about it, and so annoying, man. And you got this as well. It's like all these guys would comment saying, it's not the lion's mane. Are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Are you trying, like, just shut up, guys. Like, frustrating, man.
It's funny with me because like you can attack me as a public figure of like, Russo's just abusing like 1,000 different things at once. He can't pick it out. Where when I would use lion's mane in the past at the low dosages, I 100% attribute that crazy crash to tesofensine. Could have messed with my shit, but as far as that crazy, I couldn't sleep for like over a week crash, I feel like was the dosage of lion's mane. Because I was fooled. I would do 1,500 all the time. Like you said, I would notice my libido dip down a little bit. It would always rebound back. Now, obviously, I was really, eager to try that high dosage because I read that study and was like, oh, maybe this is like the magic limitless study, and like this will be my next like nootropic thing that I rave about. No, it might have just been the dosage and how you bring up saw palmetto. I've had a lot of guys message me that take saw palmetto out of the grocery store, castrated. Boom, they go to the doctor. What are you talking about? It's saw palmetto, dude. Your dick looks fine. Boom, ignored. It's just like...
They're literally... I feel like there's actually a physical discoloration change in the penile tissue as well. Like, it just looks like it's lost. It not only does it look, skinnier and not as full, like, it literally, it's like non-responsive. Like, even, like, thankfully, because my testosterone's been very high throughout this entire, like, my natural testosterone still...
I know, you have, like, the most insane natural testosterone score ever.
Dude, like, think about this as well. Like, a number of guys probably look at me, and a number of guys look at me and they're like, dude, man, look, your natural testosterone is 988 naturally. I'm like, yeah. They're like, your sex drive must be through the roof. Only when I'm in a window is it through the roof.
Right.
Otherwise, if I'm fucking crashed, there is no libido. It's gone, even with high testosterone and high DHT. Like, it just... And this is the thing, man. Like, part of this podcast, I really want to discuss some of the other things that can cause what's known as a crash. So for guys that have suffered from side effects from like finasteride, which is a hair loss drug, lion's mane, minoxidil, other 5-AR inhibitors, or they've used ashwagandha, all of these guys are now hyper susceptible to crashes. And I've seen this time and time again, that all of a sudden now there's a range of supplements and herbs that they have to be careful of touching. Because I'll give you an example. I used to have ginger regularly, in the morning before breakfast as like a, general digestive. Now, if I take ginger, it will cause a significant crash. And that's possible. Like, again, we don't truly know why, but I think that it's because it partially agonizes the 5-HT1A serotonin receptor. And there's a whole list. There's literally a whole list of different supplements. Zinc, acetyl L-carnitine. There's just so many out there that can actually affect that. So one thing I really want to point out, for those who are suffering, that there's an entire list of things to avoid on the PSSD forum. There's an entire website that goes through a list of things to avoid. Another one's alcohol, by the way. If you have alcohol and you have PSSD...
Can you get drunk, Lucas?
You're asking the wrong guy, because I never...
Can you smoke weed and get high?
No. I haven't used weed. I probably wouldn't use cannabis.
Okay, for those watching, I smoked... I had, like, the best top shelf. Like, I went to the fucking dispensary and I want, like, the worst indica, like, put me to the fucking moon. When I crashed, I smoked through the entire fucking thing and felt nothing. And before that crash, I would do 3 hits and the room was spinning.
It's crazy.
Like, I can smoke weed again now, but oh my goodness, I couldn't get drunk. I fucking doing hard liquor, nothing happening. I was telling my girlfriend, I'm gonna go to the bar and say I can outdrink people and just fucking, like, snoop them, like, right after, because, like, I don't respond to alcohol. And, like, the food thing, like you, Lucas, at the start, like, I would eat stuff and, like, my brain would just shut off. It would feel like the gut-brain axis wasn't communicating correctly, and I would eat something. Like, for example, like, my sister had a promenade, so a dance. Came to see her. The crowd caused me to have to leave. I had to leave. I literally Ubered out of there because I was getting, like, extreme paranoia brain fog, because it seemed like my brain was requesting all these neurotransmitters and they were not being, like, the communication with my gut wasn't going on. And I was suffering from that for months, and, like, everyone knows me as, like, the social outbursty, like, I'm introverted, then I'm outbursty, and I became a hermit just like you. Like, I don't want to go out in public. If I go out in public too much, it's draining my actual central nervous system. I feel like 100-year-old man. Like walking upstairs is tiring. It was just, it's way more than just stupid sexual side effects. Everyone coming at me like, oh, Russo just mad about his dick, and his dick probably just like, it's this whole other just long, like how is my thyroid not working? I was like hypothyroid. Like I was getting fat. Like I used to be 250 pounds. When I crashed to like 220. So I'm like, can I even gain this weight back? It was coming all onto my stomach. No matter, I was pumping myself with grams of gear too. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be like coming back. It was like I literally was getting fat. My legs were getting fat like a woman. It was just something to behold. And then you go online and you speak that, and they tell you to shut the fuck up. They're just like, what are you talking about?
Well, what I try and explain to guys is the pleasure response pathway, like that dopamine response pathway, it's lit up regardless of the type of pleasurable activity. So, for example, like eating chocolate, going to the movies, or having sex, like all these these stimuluses or stimuli still activate that dopaminergic pathway, and if that pathway is blocked, or is nullified or numbed, which is what we experience, then we talk about the sexual sphere, but it's really, like you said, it's affecting all the other pleasure response pathways as well. And then part of that as well is, ironically, even though we've got that pleasure response pathway, we've also got the fear. So for me, though, what's interesting, man, is that I remembered feeling like I used to get really nervous and things before, like let's say a big interview or whatever. But back then, I had nothing. Like I could literally just, I felt fearless. I literally felt fearless. But that's because I had no emotion. Like I felt like a psychopath. Like you said, I literally felt psychopathic, and I knew that.
Don't you feel like when you're in your own living space and you're crashed, like it's not your living space? You're just kind of like in a prison in your mind. Like you don't even give a fuck it's your place. Like I just bought my house and I crashed, and I'm like, I don't give a shit I'm in this. Like it was literally that bad. Like I had no homey feeling. None of that.
There's none of that. I like to explain it like, if you were to jump into a spa, like a hot tub, as soon as you jump in, you get that like warm, cozy, like feeling. You actually get it up here, and you also get it from the skin. But that effect is just gone, man. Like you just don't get that like cozy feeling. And that cozy feeling, like what the fuck is that? Like is it oxytocin? Is it dopamine? Like is it endorphins? Like it's just so hard to know.
I think it, like, to me, I think it's dopamine. I think it's the AR personally. I think at least when you look, because like with the PSSD data, I'm going to throw the PSSD community under the bus. I don't give a shit. I say what I want. Is that, I mean, come on. Like that community's got to get together. It's just starting to get together. Yeah. The amount of people taking that shit, like, come on. The finasteride community is a little bit more together as they've been battling this. And when you read through their data, I interviewed a guy on my YouTube channel that had part of his penis donated. So he had his penis cut without anesthetic. No anesthetic. He flew there on his own money, too. So this guy, obviously, he's psychosomatic. He definitely doesn't want to heal himself. He's getting his dick chopped off. Anyway, they chopped off his dick, and they analyzed it, and there were so many AR in the cells that I guaranteed those AR aren't even registering to the brain. My 2 cents. And that, how Lucas says, if you eat certain stuff, I'm sure that's impacting the AR in some way. And I feel like that just spirals into all these issues of your brain is not detecting how many AR it truly has as a male, and that it's causing all these issues. That's where my mind is at this point, based on the shit that I've done.
Well, a lot of these flavonoids, I remember looking into like things like resveratrol and terostilbene and gingerols and all these anthocyanins, a lot of them do actually interact with that. They suppress prostate cancer, but how are they going to do that? Well, they actually interact with the androgen receptors. There must be a reasoning for that. The other pathway could be that they are activating the immune system, and it's the immune system messing up the androgen receptor expression. Like, I thought that might be one of the theories.
I think you're right on that.
That's why, yeah, the immune pathway has to be considered as well.
I think it stems from the expression is overexpressed. There's no real good data to look at directly, but if, Lucas goes off camera after this and looks up Kennedy's disease, that's a very rare AR overexpression disease where I had all like the side effects of it in the beginning, in my opinion. Like, I shrunk in height. I don't know if you shrunk in height. I lost about 1.5 inches of height that has returned. And I had spine pain all day. And when you look up AR overexpression, a lot of that points to that. Another thing is neurosteroids. So if your AR aren't working right, the neurosteroids feeding the AR are going to be thrown off. And then if the immune system is thrown off from all that, you need all this stuff to work right for the immune system to function properly. So it's just like this whole shit fire. But I think personally, I think it's around the AR being the way that I've recovered the most. I agree with your serotonin theory of it being fucked up. Like, it feels like my serotonin was too high.
Well, let me explain this. For me, in my case, when I got ruined by ashwagandha, there was only a few things that helped my case, and there is only a few things right now that actually will get me into a window. The first one was St. John's wort. Now, St. John's wort, a bunch of people are going to listen to this and be like, why the hell would you take a herbal SSRI? Now, if you have a look into some of the constituents in St. John's wort, it's the hyperforin, which acts as the SSRI in St. John's wort. I decided to get a St. John's wort that's removed. They remove the hyperforin, and it's got something else known as the hypericin, which is the constituent that upregulates the serotonin 5-HT1A receptor. 5-HT1A serotonin receptor upregulation. Now, when I tried St. John's wort back then, a number of years ago, first and foremost was after 3 days, I started getting pleasurable dreams. Like, I actually felt pleasure during my dream, and I woke up feeling like the anhedonia, which is the blunted pleasure response, was completely gone. I could taste, like, food tasted beautiful again. Everything felt like it used to feel. Right? That's one example. The second example is cyproheptadine, which is that anti-serotonin drug that I've mentioned to you before. Why, and this is $1 million question, anyone listening to this podcast who can actually answer this from a scientific point of view, I will literally pay them $10,000, because that's how desperate I am to uncover what the hell's going on here. If cyproheptadine can induce an upregulation in that serotonin receptor, could that explain why that medication is the only medication currently right now that can put me into a window? Is it because it's acting on that serotonin 1A receptor? And if so, like how is that occurring? I just want to know, what is it doing to that? I honestly wish sometimes, man, I wish that I could dissect my brain in states when I'm in a window and literally have a look at it and see, like, what's going on. Like, I just want to see. It's the not knowing aspect that's the most debilitating part. It's the not understanding it is fucking so annoying.
It's also that you're so intelligent that you are
Oh,
hyper fixated on all the variables. So it's not like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's like Lucas knows what to do, but he just doesn't have the tools to
yeah.
truly see.
Well, that's probably one of the hardest parts about it is that like guys have come to me and said, "Wait, what do you mean you can't figure it out? Like you're the man for all this stuff. Like you know this stuff inside out." I'm like, "Yeah, I do know. I do spend all my time researching this sort of stuff. I research supplements like you wouldn't believe. I'm searching amino acids like you like. It's all I do. I love this stuff.
Right.
But like for me, and they come to me and like, how have you not found a solution yet? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like I'm trying, but it seems like I must admit, man, I think there's also a part of me that believes that I think there's a part of me that doesn't want to be healed, and that's some other weird thing that I've got going on, thinking that if I'm healed, then I won't be as focused on my work because all I'll be doing is like focusing on self-satisfying myself, like ego-based like activities, traveling, enjoying hedonic, being more hedonic, like just purely hedonistic lifestyle. So I think that part of the suffering that I've experienced may have actually worked in my favor and kept me like focused. And that's something I've sort of delved into with some psychologists and things like that. But yeah, it's a tricky one, man. It's
My no bullshit advice is that you want that side of you back, Lucas. Don't listen to the pussy psychologist that's like, you are already hyper fixated on working. Your metrics are all moving up. Your analytics are moving up. If you want to have a little bit of egomania every once in a while, I feel like you should heal out.
yeah.
That's just my 2 cents on that. Going back to your superheptine, I wonder if it's like the HDAC effect
Well,
of it.
I thought about that as well. We should explain to the listeners. I mean, I might actually. We should explain to the listeners. Why don't we do this on camera? Binding affinities. We can literally look up, and there's plenty of. The drug that we're talking about here is called cyproheptadine, otherwise known as periactin, and it's the very first generation antihistamine ever developed. So this was back in 1959, and it was used to treat allergic reactions like hay fever, and it's also used to stimulate appetite. So a bunch of bodybuilders used to use this drug back in the day to give them an insatiable appetite. And I have this joke saying that it'll turn you from athletic to diabetic overnight. That's what I usually say.
Before they had 677, they had this. Before every TikTok broccoli hair fuck kid was taking 677, people were using this.
All right, so here we go. Cyproheptadine is also used off-label in the management of moderate to severe cases of serotonin syndrome. And that is due to its effects on blocking the serotonin type 2A receptors, the 5-HT2A receptors, and it also blocks the 5-HT1 receptors. So we're getting a bit of an interesting... Oh my God, man. I'm surprised I've never seen this. I'm literally reading this off Wikipedia. Besides its activity at neurotransmitter targets, cyproheptadine has been reported to possess weak anti-androgenic activity.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Because there's other instances of people taking anti-androgens and going into a window as well in the finasteride data that I read.
Anti-androgenic activity. Because remember, to explain to my listeners how cyproheptadine helps me, it doesn't help me after I take it. It's 4 days after I take it. It's 4 days after. I've literally made a thread which has thousands of views online. It's called The Famous Cyproheptadine Rebound. And I'm explaining this phenomenon. And some guys are saying, oh, it's because you're getting a rebound in cortisol, you're getting a rebound in histamine, because histamine is energizing and wakefulness promoting. But Maybe. Hmm. It's interesting.
Going back to the serotonin being off, do you think that you're like, my angle is that if allopreg is off, wouldn't serotonin be higher because that's in the data? I'll have to find you the study that data's in, but they did a rat study, fucking around with the rats on finasteride, and they noticed that the serotonin level was altered after the withdrawal. And that could be in correlation with the allopreg level being altered.
I think it could be. The allopregnanolone pathway is what gets affected by finasteride, right? Like all the finasteride sufferers complain of. Well, there's research to suggest that these finasteride can lower allopregnanolone synthesis in the brain, and that's what they believe is a culprit behind the anxiety that it can cause and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's possible to acquire allopregnanolone in powder form.
I have a plug for liquid, but it needs to be IV'd.
Right. Okay.
And it's a mutation of the finasteride, so it's a reversible epigenetic mutation that they gave the rats. They IV'd them allopreg. Everything came back. The serotonin was still slightly altered. So I'm just spitballing. Like, I'm wondering if the AR is messed up, then the allo to work with the AR could be messed up. The serotonin could be fluctuated off those variables.
Possibly. Well, it's true because a lot of those serotonin receptors can actually affect ACTH, cortisol, prolactin, oxytocin, and growth hormone. So that 5-HT2A receptor, a lot of people don't realize this, but if you block that receptor, that actually stops male mating behavior completely. If you block that receptor, like in rats, it literally blocks. It's called copulatory. You understand that, my audience, but it literally blocks copulatory behavior by blocking a serotonin receptor. So definitely, I think there's maybe downstream effects of that. But look, we could go on and on. I mean, there's definitely, like, you've experimented with sodium valproate, which is a HDAC inhibitor. Did you want to share your experience with that?
Yeah, I'll go into it. I'm gonna do my full dosages and everything. If you guys want to follow my channel, don't do what I do. This was an experience, but yeah, I kind of was led down the AR path. I started with the serotonin path you put me on. It feels like it, I'm not saying you're wrong. It just feels like my AR are off if I can't get a pump. And nowadays, in my current recovered state, like, my upper body, I have like intracellular muscular like retention. My muscles look manly. My lower half looks feminine. And when I masturbate, like, I feel the aloe going into my dick, or something's going into my dick to where my legs are shrinking as I'm masturbating. So that sort of shit is going on right now in my current stage of recovery. So if Lucas wants to pull out the magnifying glass and we can't even figure out what's truly going on there, I think it has to relate personally to my AR going back to normal expression after abusing the valproate. And now my brain's like, oh, fuck, we have all these AR. There's this mutation on allopreg. We're not making enough allopreg. And then I'm doing crazy supplementations to get more allopreg with PEA constantly. Like, I'm doing a bottle of PEA a fucking day. I'm spending hundreds.
Is this the painkiller, palmitolethylamide? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that's like a little branch that it's a lottery. It's a lottery, but you can get an allopreg conversion off it if you're just throwing shit against the fan. But as far as like, I felt completely in Lucas's state forever. I didn't feel like I was healing out at all. I would eat shit, crash. I would try steroids. Steroids made my dick smaller, Lucas. Tribulus made my dick smaller. I thought, okay, it's neurosteroids right off the bat. I did a vial of HCG every other day. My nuts looked giant. My dick was micro. Didn't feel any sort of, like, when I would do HCG, man, I would feel that shit in my head. Like, I'd feel all those neurosteroids dump. I didn't feel any of that. So then I'm like, okay, it has to be, androgen is where I'm going to attack, because I'm not going to sit here, I'm going to fall on the sword, whatever. I'm experimenting at this point. So then that leads me to, the whole cascade of the, what are those things called, the cytokines, or
yeah, cytokines,
like all those. Yeah, if like, think about that probably is all fucked up if those AR aren't being recognized as well. So maybe they're like, maybe I don't even have enough 5AR to saturate the AR and put them back to normal. Because I read one little study is that they are researching into prostate cancer, like you brought up earlier in this podcast, Lucas, and they were like, AR overexpression can be defeated by just blasting DHT. So if you go in the finasteride cult group of sufferers, they all try Proviron. Proviron half-life, in my opinion, is not high enough to systematically battle AR overexpression everywhere. If that was truly what was going on with me and that was in my head, call me stupid, I don't care. If I had systematic AR overexpression, I would need to use something like dihydroboldenone that would go under 5AR. And I want to credit the biohacker Alex Kiekel, who I will 100% give credit to everyone's information I used for this shit. But Alex Kiekel kind of had like the same idea. He was right there with me of like, this is fucking AR. It seems like DHT is blocked systematically, and that the body did a workaround to combat that. So I start using an extremely dangerous amount of dihydroboldenone. I start feeling better. I get pumps in the gym. My dick sort of comes back to where it looks like a normal shape again, and the skin is hydrating itself. So before then, my dick would look chafed all the time, as if someone like literally took an electrocutor and burned it off. Like, my dick is now a normal color. It might be small flaccid, but at least it's a normal color, right? So anyways, I'm blasting dihydroboldenone. I'm messaging Lucas on like grams of dihydroboldenone, like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm blasting out of here. If you guys don't know anything about dihydroboldenone, it has the worst post-injection pain ever. I'm talking like you're sliding knives through this fucking needle. And the funny thing about the post-injection pain is you're like, you do it, it hurts so fucking bad. And then you're like, oh, okay. 2 days go by, no pain. 4th day, jeez. Welt. And by the way, dihydroboldenone is 100 megamil. And yeah, I need grams. So think how many mils that is. Think how many solvents I'm putting in my body. Anyways, I thought that it was working. So I figured out, for me personally, this isn't a cure, blah, 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 that the AR was definitely a big problem with me. I continue the dihydroboldenone. I'm experiencing dopamine. I smoked weed for the first time. I cried with my girlfriend. Like, I could feel real joy with my girlfriend again. And then I started crashing again. The AR fought back. Fought back off of grams of DHB. So think about all those people on the finasteride forums using a little bit of Proviron. I'm using a serum concentration of cypionate DHB going under the 5AR, because I assume the amount of 5AR that it's being made is for the AR that is being detected. So all the cytokines are off. I can't change that. The brain thinks it only has so many. It thinks you're 90 when you're not. So I went under that, crashing again. Decide to throw in the sodium valproate. I could have, like, if I took that pill, I was like, Lucas, you should have saw me before I took that first pill of valproate, because I'm like, I read so many stories of people crashing into oblivion after taking valproate, and the only reason I banked on using valproate is because I had so much DHB in my body. I thought my body be stupid as fuck to go against that. Like, it would probably want to reduce the AR back to a normal amount if I'm on DHB. So I added in the valproate, and I don't even know how to describe how shitty I felt. I could sleep again, but it felt like any single thought I had
What dose?
was a struggle.
What dose in the valproate? I'm too scared to know.
Do you know anything about dosing valproate?
It's like, what is it, 50 milligrams? I don't know. It's 200 milligrams, sorry. Don't tell me you're in grams.
Okay, I didn't say it, but I did say it. So I took a lot of, I'll do the full protocol,
Yeah.
but I had to take a lot of shit besides valproate, like all these ancillary compounds to offset valproate.
Yeah.
And I also added in butyrate. So I did butyrate as well because I couldn't eat. I would throw up constantly. So I could eat seafood. I ate a lot of fucking seafood. But I would throw up like every other day. As far as the GABA was insane to where like I was completely fine with being a vegetable staring at the wall on valproate. My girlfriend would constantly, like, I told my girlfriend, like, I'm going to lose IQ on this valproate. You need to talk to me as much as possible because the GABA is so high in my head that the dopamine is like, my brain is going to shrink. I'm going to get fucking stupid. Please talk to me as much as possible. And it was just like she'd constantly be talking to like a fucking robot version of me. And you see how bipolar I am and how all over the place I am in this conversation now that I'm kind of healed. Like, just imagine, like, I can't even watch a fucking movie and shit. And then when I would go to the gym, imagine going to the gym on fucking 2 grams of fucking valproate. So I'm in the fucking gym. I can barely walk. Like, of course I'm going to lift. Like, if I'm going to die, then I'm dying lifting, right? So I'm in the gym on DHB, so I'm on fucking high amount of androgen and the valproate. So 2 fucking, like, these are battling. Like, you have dopamine from the DHB going against the GABA from the valproate in bipolar Russo's body at extreme amounts of both, and people want me to put this fucking cure online.
Oh my god.
I would do 1 set in shake for fucking, like, I don't even know, 5 minutes, and then I'd do another set in shake. And my physique came back like that.
Oh.
Like that. So it started getting to a point where I couldn't do cardio because when I would breathe the valpuric acid out of my esophagus. I would wheeze. I would wheeze like crazy, like like that was my normal breathing. And what else about the valproate? I was sick. It didn't really work, like, heal me. Like, obviously I didn't start at 2,000 a day, right? I started at like, okay, I'm going to do 250 twice a day. Didn't notice much. It didn't really start working until after 750 twice a day.
I'm trying to understand the mechanism. Like, I need to understand what is it? Oh, the GABA? Increase in levels of GABA? Okay. Blocking voltage-gated ion channels. Damn.
Lucas, it's like the drug, you know, in like the psych ward movies where they're like, we'll just nuke their brain. Like, and my girlfriend, her mother's a nurse practitioner, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm about to do a bunch of valproate with DHB. And she was like, oh my goodness. Like, when she worked on the ER, she's like, well, how much are you going to do? And I'm like, probably like 1,000, like twice a day. And she's like, The most we ever gave was 500 twice a day. I'm like, so I went and looked up the max dosage they would prescribe, and it was 2,500. So some crazy ass doctor out there is giving someone 2,500 probably for actual seizures. But the minute I crossed from the 500 twice a day mark into those upper dosages, I mean, I was with a death wish to fucking heal out of it, honestly. And the way I knew to stop was... Here, I'll say it. So, like, it got to a point where it did feel like my cells were making this nuclear switch where they are all switching back to normal. And remember, I have grams of DHB in me. Like, this is, like, horrible for my heart, right? So there are 2 times where I woke up with horrible chest pains as if I was going to have a heart attack, and then it would go back to normal. And then all of a sudden, I started feeling my bipolar drive again on the valproate. So I started getting really upset off or on the valproate all the time. And I'm like, maybe it worked. I want to stop this shit. So I also cut the valproate cold turkey because I'm just that psychotic, right? Just cut it. Do not recommend. Please, if you are listening to this information, don't cut it cold turkey. I cut it cold turkey. Oh my god, dude, the emotional roller coaster, but it was like nothing compared to the lion's mane. I'm like, once a lion's mane, I can do any of these withdrawals. That's when it looked as if I crashed again after the valproate. Like my spine hurt, everything hurt, but my muscles felt normal in the gym, and they would shrink and dissipate. And that's where I'm like, this is neurosteroids probably now. I did a shot of HCG. I did a whole vial of HCG. A whole vial. The adrenals fired. I had the most insane mania for like 3 hours. And it felt like I could feel the HCG how I would normally feel. And the dopamine was firing. But my body was broken. Like my central nervous system was very weak because I personally think all my AR went back to normal and the brain is now currently recalibrating. For example, like I couldn't hack squat 2 plates without my spine going like this. I just did legs and I'm at 5 plates and a quarter and my spine is fine. But this is all after the valproate. I made no advancement in any recovery before doing that crazy bullshit. And like I said, I could have had a heart attack. When I would get upset on valproate, it's made for bipolar people to stop them from getting mad, Lucas. I'm going to be mad till the day I die. Like, that's part of my personality. But when you're on valproate and you get mad, you start going like this because the GABA systematically is fighting the dopamine response. So anytime I would get upset, there were one time I was walking and I was upset texting on my phone about business shit. And, like, my legs gave out because they were shaking because I was so mad in my head. Like, my legs stopped. And it's just, like, that valproate is so, sketchy. But I personally think it relates back to how you have a window with cyproheptine. Imagine an XR constant HDAC every day. You're baking that HDAC. You're constantly opening all that epigene shit up. And then you're flooding the DHB in to get it back under control. That's my crazy theory. I don't know any actual science behind that. There's nothing to fucking look at. If you go read into valproate, I read it on Reddit, and it's a bunch of horror stories with valproate, and yeah.
It's crazy.
What questions do you have?
The well, we'll save the full protocol for your video. I don't want to go into too much detail about too much into the treatment protocol.
Oh, I had to do other things too before I even got to that step.
I can imagine. As in, there were. You said that you had to use things to offset the side effects, right? Of valproate.
It causes liver damage. You can't eat. It stops your stomach from working, so you got to use the sodium butyrate to make your stomach work. If you don't, you'll throw up everything. My weight plummeted. So I was actually binge eating. I got up to 230 to like binge eating. By the time I was done with valproate, I was 211. And I was trying to eat every day. I was trying my best. And you burn so much calories because you're like shaking all day. You're like completely fucking out of it. And you just, all your dopamine is being combated by this massive amount of GABA the whole time. And it's just, I can see where Valpray could, if you don't recover from using it, could make you in a way worse position than if you never went down that route. But that's a route I went down. And is it arguable that because I did the mass amount of DHB with the Valparate that I got the intended result, or was the DHB a waste of time and a waste of attack on my kidneys and, you know, all the shit that comes with using upwards of 2 grams of DHB all the time?
It's insane, man.
But I think like the point that you can make from my recovery is I think like the actual cure for a normal, you know, what the Western medical professional should come up with is that I think there's going to be, you know, they're going to scan your epigenes, they're going to find these mutations, and they're just going to switch them back on, because I just ghetto-ly probably did that. I probably did the most ghetto dumpster fire way. And like, I feel so much more normal. I feel like Lucas can feel me talking, and he probably talked to 2 different people before and after that debacle. I'm not 100% by all means, but it's hard for me to put myself in that horrid state
I know
after getting out of it. It's like so hard for me to envision it.
That's what I say, dude. When I get into a window, that's what I say. I'm like, I can't even imagine what it was like to be in that shit state again. But I'm like, just like it could happen just around the corner. I'll crash again. I'll be back in that state. And I'm like, it seems like getting in a window is so far away again. It's like, all right. And then when I'm in a window, I'm like, I can't possibly imagine what it's like to be suffering. And then like when people talk about it, I'm like, yeah, that sucks, but I can't remember how it is. Almost, it's like it doesn't register in the brain. It's weird, man.
It's like all that is just like a trauma response that like I want to make the cure video and really convey it, and I'm like, it seems so far away from me to reach and convey it online.
I know. Yeah.
And you have like these companies like Hims, you know, you have a 19-year-old kid who has, you know, male pattern baldness, sadly, that they're predetermined to go bald, and that's where their confidence is coming from. They take one pill and they have a similar experience to what I had without not knowing anything what's going on, let alone doing all this crazy shit that I just did. I have all these guys in my DM box threatening to kill themselves if I don't make this video as soon as possible. I revealed some of the shit I did on your podcast, Lucas, and you can see that, you know, I don't want people, like, I'm crazy. I wanted to fall on the sword. I didn't care. Like, my kidneys could have been damaged. Heart could have been damaged. I almost had a couple weird seizure-like moments. Like I told you, like, I froze up. If I would miss a pill of Valparate, you're going to have an instant seizure. Like, you can't taste anything on Valparate, so me and my girl went to a fancy restaurant, and it was 1.5 hours past when I should take my pill, and I'm shaking like a motherfucker. I brought the pill with me, but I just wanted to eat my food and enjoy it before I had to fucking take that poison again. And if you miss one pill, you're done. You're done. Especially on those high dosages. When I cold turkeyed off Valparate, I couldn't look at shit because the dopamine was so intense, because the GABA raises. And it might be my bipolarism, my genes on my bipolarism, but my dopamine met the GABA. That's what I felt. Boom, I cold turkey it. Now my dopamine's up here, slowly coming back down. So I could seizure up any time during that withdrawal. So if you do use Valparate, you need to come off it extremely slowly. You cannot cold turkey that. I remember locking myself in a dark room in the rain. Hearing the rain was too intense on my dopamine. And that slowly came back to normal. And like I said, I thought I crashed again when I did it.
It's insane, man.
I think the only professional cure is just opening up RNA editing to the mainstream. It's like, come on.
I think
Like, Lucas has tried everything. I've read everything on Accutane syndrome, ashwagandha, lion's mane, finasteride. It happens with AI abuse. It happens with DECA abuse. I think, like, for people to, like, that's the other thing I hate, Lucas, is I would sit there boiled in that horrible state all day knowing that there's some RNA geneticist that probably in a month could make 2 shots where I'm like, back, and they won't fucking do it. And that's what pisses me off the most, is that if the PSSD community, all these communities came together and just be like, we want RNA editing to look into this, please. I guarantee they would come up with a couple shots. They would okay, Lucas, there's a mutation here, there's a mutation here. These mutations won't go back to normal. We will just simply bump them back. Boom, boom. Lucas walks out completely fine. He can't crash again unless he does some dumb shit and takes ashwagandha again. That's what I think. I think I exposed the ghetto way to where I ghetto-ly pushed my fucking AR back to normal. And who the fuck knows what else Valparate did to me while I was doing that much. I literally justified with myself, Lucas, like, oh, I'm bipolar. If I fought a bunch more kids in fucking middle school, they would have put me on this shit anyway. So I was just like, boom. And the first pill's insane. I felt like I was going to crash again when I did it. The first pill was so horrible. After that, I got used to it. Like, I had insane paranoia of crashing further when I did it.
Man, I think it's, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that sort of gene editing discovery takes place in the next few months because, like you said, man, like, I mean, I'm getting messages every day as well from guys who are suffering. Even I had one yesterday from a guy who, 21 years of age, used ashwagandha a year ago, and he's still complaining of side effects, and he's not sure what to do. And the hardest part about it, man, is like, when they message me, I feel so bad because I don't have a cure. I don't have a complete fix. So that's like the hardest part, is knowing that not only have I let myself down, but I'm also letting all these guys follow. Like, I'm unable to help them. But man, look, let's cap it at that. I mean, there's so much we can dive into, but I want to save it for your channel and your YouTube channel for that video. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you everyone for joining in to today's episode. For in-depth show notes and lessons learned, visit nofilter.media/boost your biology.